So we are now live. Oh my goodness, so excited for today where we get to spotlight our most amazing community, the Speakers and Coaches Networking Society. Now live. Oh my goodness, so excited for today where we get to spotlight our most amazing community, the Speakers and Coaches Net. Okay, so now we're back.
Nice to be here.
These are better than one.
And here's the thing, and this is the thing with the speakers and coaches, and this is the thing of being a speaker, just in general, is that there are so many things that happen, the dynamic of life. And whenever you resist what you resist persists, you just kind of go with everything. Everything is figure outable. It's one of the values of the community. And together, that's how we figure things out. That is the benefit and the value of having a community. So, all of you that are watching live, all of you that are watching on the replay, all of you that are part of Speakers and Coaches, and just everyone, right? To know that you're not alone doing these things. So it's such a great honor that I get to introduce. Well, I'm Wendy Blum Weiss. And the reason why I founded and started the Speakers and Coaches community is because I wanted to be surrounded by speakers and coaches. And what better way to do that than to go ahead and start your own community? And all of you here are either you've built a community or you want to build a community or an audience, and that's how you start at zero, because I started at zero, and now the group is almost built to 19,000 members. And that is not like thinking about how am I going to grow really big. It's just really about one step at a time, one person at a time, and that's how it builds. Now at this point I have the great honor to introduce this year, bringing over Patricia Wooster, and she and I have been partners now for a while, but now Patricia and I have fully partnered in our business, and it's such a great honor to be doing the first summit with you, Patricia, and then spotlighting our other members. So I just want to share a little bit about you, Patricia. For many years, I was looking for a publishing partner. I had written my own books. I had this idea around doing co-author and collaboration books. You were already doing that. You had worked for Simon Schuster, published with Simon Schuster, had written over 19 books. We met, we totally clicked. And P.S., we started creating these projects of collaboration books. And then we did 3 books, really. We were at the tail end of the 3rd book when then we decided that we were going to go full partners in all aspects of our business. So it's so wonderful to have you here. What truly a great honor.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. And it was really crazy was that when Wendy and I connected, we actually found out we live just a few hours apart. So which has been really great as we formed our partnership, is we're having so much fun getting together and sort of figuring out how do we serve our community. And so, my, I guess, genius is helping other people take their genius and share it with the world through books and courses and certification programs and all of those types of things, so that people can create the assets to not only get a transformation with their audience, but they can spend more time doing what they love instead of, in sales mode or trying to figure out how they're going to show their credibility or their authority. Is I help them write and publish a book. And so when Wendy and I connected, it was fantastic because not only did she have a background with publishing, but she was out in front of people on stages and speaking and those kind of things, which wasn't a piece I really had. Like if I spoke on stage, it was because somebody read a book and then they requested me be on stage to talk about that or writing a book, but I would never call myself a speaker. And that was something that I felt like not only did I need that, but also my community really needed to know how to get in front of people and present themselves, even if it was just on a podcast or a panel or a summit. It doesn't have to be a keynote, but we all have to learn how to be really good speakers right now because we're trying to stand out in a very crowded marketplace. So I'm just excited to be here. I'm very excited to get to know the community and to spend more time helping everyone kind of get where they're trying to go.
Oh, so great. So, so great. Well, so awesome. We get to introduce our first spotlighted speaker today. And Debbie Golden. It was so interesting because we had an event, I guess it was a year and a half ago, and Debbie attended that event as a guest with somebody, right? You came in with Jonathan and you just thought you were going to an event, right? And lo and behold, and we were featuring our co-authors of Becoming You, which was our second book. And after you, like you and I had a chance to speak, you came up and you said, I think I want to be part of your next book, right? I think you maybe had decided during that time. But since this time, you were still working for corporate. You had this big corporate career that you have built, and also a mom and doing all the things, but you were thinking about leaving and you were getting close to leaving and you were planning the exit. And since that time now, today, you are a best-selling author. You are a co-author in our third book, Impact Entrepreneur. You've left corporate and now you are a digital online coach. Like that's what you help people do, is to make the exit. And it's just phenomenal. And I'd be remiss without saying, watching you in such a short period of time. Now, imagine this, talking about wanting to be in the digital world. Debbie has videos and she makes a lot of reels, and it's hard to put yourself out there, but you just have put yourself out there, girl. You just have done it, and you have millions, not, not dozens, not hundreds, not that, millions
I've
of
never seen
views.
anything like it happen. Like,
It's so phenomenal. So we're high-fiving you on that and all the things that you're doing. So the floor is yours to share
Oh,
more
so
about
my gosh,
what you
that is
do and
so,
why you do it.
it's been such a whirlwind just in general. And, this to me, it's just one of those things that, if I'm a girl of faith and if you believe, and, anything can happen. And it's been quite a journey, because the journey that I'm on today is very different than I was a year ago. So my last day in corporate America was December 29th. So I'm literally 7 months, not even 7 months yet, out of corporate America. So my life has completely changed in ways I never could have imagined. Since I met you, Wendy, right? Like, I started this journey and it wasn't easy to start it, right? It's a struggle like everybody else, but to the big corporate job. So I moved over $2.5 billion in consumer packaged goods, which seems like a big number, and yay. And I had all the awards, all the things, but in that time, I helped 0 people. And so I was very unfulfilled. And all of my friends, everyone that I talked to, as we get older and we move forward in life, we are just missing that fulfillment. So I felt called to help other women who are just like me, with older kids, moving into our next life chapter. We don't quite know what that looks like yet. We're scared. There's some uncertainty, is like, what is this next life chapter going to look like? And we want it to have meaning, purpose, and we want to make money. So I was able to put all of that together into a program. So I'm a coach, and I really kind of like, I feel like I'm a super extractor, where people are called for a higher purpose, and I just work with them to like pull out what they feel like they are called to do. And then once we do that, we create some digital products. And then, just like me, you throw yourself out there on social media as 100% as authentic as you can. Share your story so that people can resonate with you. And that's the piece that's missing right now. And I think why I've gotten millions and millions and millions of views, because I am so raw and so authentic that people are like, oh my gosh, I resonate with you. Like, I just put the craziest stuff out there, and women are like, totally, I agree 100%. That's me. And so that's what I do. And so it's been a whirlwind. I feel like I'm a completely different person, a completely different life, different opportunities have come my way that I've never imagined. So it's been crazy.
Well, it really is true. Your videos are so authentic, and you can tell like you're just like in your yard or in your kitchen, and you do them without like being made up or not being dressed. And we appreciate that like so very much, that you are speaking to real people, and that's what they identify with. So we've been watching you on that trajectory, like really to the moon. And it's really encouraging, like somebody who's listening today and watching, is that if it's possible for you, then it's possible for them, because you've been able to do it on a very short timeline. And then you peel back the curtain and take people by the hand and help them do it too. At a very scary phase of life is when they're at that midlife and like thinking like, is that really possible? And I don't look like all the model like people that are out there. And
Well,
all
I
the things. So you're
remember,
beautiful.
I actually remember, Debbie, so when we work with our co-authors, we always go onto Instagram and we follow them, right? And I remember you were talking about leaving corporate. So this would have been before December, but not very much before. And I went to follow you, and you had 261 followers on Instagram at the time. And I thought, oh my gosh, how is she going to launch this digital business? Literally, that's what I thought. And I just looked, you have over 16,000 followers right now already. And if you click, if anyone wants to go follow Debbie, Debbie, it's Debbie.digital on Instagram.
We'll post it. We'll post the link below in the
If
comments
you
section.
go look at the reels, she has several that have over 1 million views. And that's what, like Wendy's saying, is that people think it's too late to start something. Oh, I don't have a social media account, or I don't have a business. I'm in corporate, I'm close, or I've never created a course before, written a book. And like within months, we've literally watched it happen. So it's been really incredible.
Amazing. And so you're in our next book. And so you spoke on stage. What was speaking on stage? Was that the first time that you had spoken on stage?
Yeah, scary for me. Like it's so weird because I'm not afraid of speaking, and in general, I've done a million virtual calls. But what's different is I have, like, in corporate America, I've been in the same industry for 20 some years, and I'm just this huge expert, and I could just talk about anything all day long, right? This, for me, to you guys' point, I am a beginner. Like, I'm new. So for me, it's not scary to speak. It's just I don't feel like an expert yet in the area that I'm in now. And that was scary for me. And so to talk a little bit about, I guess, being on stage in the subject matter that I'm not familiar with, or feel like I should be giving any advice yet because it's so new to me. So I think I loved it because, it felt, I know that some people came up after and they really resonated with my story. So I was happy about that. But at the same time, I was scared. I was scared.
Well, a lot of it so much is putting in the reps. So like Wendy and I met on Clubhouse, and for over a year, I mean, I'm a very big introvert, and for twice a week for over a year, sometimes they went 4 hours. I would sometimes have over 100 people listening to me, and I'd be taking Q&A all twice a week, constantly answering questions. Got to the point where, and at the time, some of the stuff was new. I was being asked. I'd never been asked before. It wasn't an area I was, it was peripheral to what I did, because people would ask you whatever they want. But after putting in all those reps, like I can go on a podcast, or the first couple Unleash Your Superpower events I went, Wendy was so busy, I never bothered her to say, what are you going to be asking me on stage? I had no idea. Like, I just go up there, but I could do it because I'd done the reps. You know what I mean? You just knew it becomes a part of who you are. And that's why it's so important. Like, for speakers, need to speak anywhere they can, anywhere they're invited, to get those reps in, because then you can focus more time on the polish, like the performance and the enunciations and all that kind of stuff, that when you're in your head, you're just trying to get the words out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's what's great about, like, for you, the Instagram and having some kind of outlet where you're just constantly communicating with your audience is so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did it feel when you stepped into becoming a best-selling author? What was that like for you?
You know, it's interesting. First of all, like, so to even step back, in a million years, like I said, when I worked in corporate America, to actually write a book was never a thought process for me. I'm not a writer. So to even think that that opportunity would somehow fall on my lap was weird, right? Like it felt like I needed to do it. It felt like it was something I should do, but it was crazy. Just the thought of writing a book, because I'm not a writer. I'm just so direct, and it's just like that creative flow isn't really who I am. So that like felt weird. But I did it. And then to go through the whole process of writing the book, because it is a process, right? And help along the way with you guys, the process, how it went. I actually enjoyed the process of figuring it out. Like everyone else, I think on the book, this was their second or third one, but for me, it was my first. So I'm like, this is also fun and cool because it was so new to me. And then to have, the event, Wendy, that you put on was incredible. And then shortly, just to see the community that you guys have built around this is so beautiful, impactful, and tight. Like you guys should be extremely proud of the community of people you built, which is why I'm still a part of your academy, and everything that you guys are doing is because of how you have built that community and how tight it is. But then to become a best-selling author is unbelievable to me. And so if anyone is looking, and for me, why it makes a big difference is if you're doing anything on social media, building your authority and your know, like, and trust factor. If you can't put the credentials behind you, shall we say, that you are an author at all, and then you're a best-selling author, that just does add to your authority and to your credibility and how people look at you. Like they're like, oh, she's a coach, but she's also an author. And so you start to add that checklist of bullet points of why people should know, like, trust you, work with you, and feel like they can get accelerated success with you as a coach. Obviously, being an author, a best-selling author, is so much a part of that checklist that you need for people to work with you.
Amazing. Yeah, it's so interesting, right? And everyone's so different, right? You're in your space, and all the experts, they bring their own story, their own message, their own unique gifts, not only in the story that they tell in part of the book, but as part of the collective, as part of the community. And so it's such a great honor, to have you here, that you're here on our very first summit day today, Debbie. We love watching you grow in that springboard. So thank you so much for everything that you do and are doing
Yeah.
for
Thank
women
you.
around the world. So
Thank you guys for this opportunity. It's been incredible. I can't believe it. So just always say yes, you guys. That's just like you say this all the time, Wendy. I know. I've heard you guys, Patricia, you say it too, but sometimes saying yes to things that you're scared of is really, really what you need to do. And that's what I did
you
with you.
figure it out later, like
Yep.
even this, like you figure it out
Yep.
later, because most people will sit on the sidelines trying to figure things out, script it out, think that they're going to know the outcome. Meanwhile, the people that are doing the things, but they're doing them messy and just cleaning it up and getting better along the way, they're the ones that are going to go so much further. So anybody that's watching and listening, we have Debbie's social contacts below. You absolutely want to connect with her, getting her digital course. And thank you so much, Debbie, for being here.
Thank you
Thanks,
guys for the
Debbie.
time. I appreciate it.
Amazing. Okay, Stephen. Oh gosh. So Stephen Goldhar is in the house. And Stephen actually we met through our dear friend. We'd be remiss without mentioning Rachel Levy, who was, but she's my dearest friend. And the two of you have had a long, long relationship together, knowing your past, that what you did is you produced other people and you were in marketing and you were, you worked beside Eckhart Tolle. I mean, all these really Gary Zukov, right? Like, was it Gary? And you just all the biggest names when we're talking about speakers and coaches and authors, but you were always behind the scenes. And then lo and behold, our Rachel, right, is kicking off a program, and the two of you know each other for many, many years. And then the two of you end up collaborating and partnering together also with Terry and launching Healthy Love and all the things that the three of you together have created. And you as a Healthy Love facilitator, teacher, speaker, coach, humanitarian. So it's a great honor to have you with us here today, Stephen.
Oh, thanks, Wendy. Well, I have to say, it has been quite the journey, which you have been part of, probably one of the most significant parts, which is, as Debbie put, like going from marketing another product or someone else's product to becoming the product. And my chapter in the book and my journey was about owning part of what made one of my greatest gifts is my sensitivity. And I represent a subset of the human race, about 20%, which we call highly sensitive people. Emotional processing, thinking processing is a very deep experience. And it's something we have to learn how to manage and respect and cultivate and know what that self-care looks like. And for me, I was an entrepreneur very young, starting at the age of 16. I had my first business. And so for a while, I looked like everybody else. I talked like everybody else. I did the things that everybody else was doing, but inside, there was a part of me that wasn't thriving and eventually was dying. And it took me many years to figure out what that was about, because highly sensitive people in this term is becoming understood now with all the research going on, but it really wasn't, when I was going through all this in my 20s, like 30 years ago. So I was thriving in one way in my life and sort of stumbling and struggling very deeply in another. And I had to understand what was going on, and through my own processes of working, and then closely with some of those amazing teachers like Eckhart Tolle, I learned so much. But it wasn't until that I met Rachel Levy and her vision for Healthy Love, an emotional relational education program, that I understood that there's a way of really being with the inner experience and how to flow through it, that I could learn how to be me authentically without having to hide and repress or having to rise above it and ignore it, to be with it and what that looks like so that I can be whole. And so it's a process that gave me my life back. And now I feel like Debbie was talking about, that it's part of what is important to me to offer. That purpose and meaning has become even more important than what I can do to help other people sell their products. I mean, I used to be one of the earliest pioneers in digital marketing, helping to sell everything from Gillette razors to Ford automobiles, to now helping people one-on-one and through group interactions to find themselves and learn how to be comfortable in their own skin and deal with mental health issues. So it's been a wild ride. It's been a journey, allowing that to happen and claiming that part, that high sensitive part, which I hid because it just wasn't always accepted in a lot of the circles and ways that I lived my life. And so I had to come to terms with, who am I? What does it look like to live this way? And how can I combine both of my business entrepreneurial marketing skills and my gifts as a high sensitivity and empath? And you've been a good part of that, important part of that in the book writing process and speaking on stage. it was the book, which, if I can continue with that, that gave me a chance to really practice being that person that I've hidden for so many years out in the world. It allowed me to get my story out, to claim that part of myself so it wasn't hidden anymore, and to see what that looked like out in the world, and to get feedback, and to know how to hold that part of me that I needed to become the coach and the teacher and facilitator that I am today. And so it was a crucial moment. I mean, it was very scary to me to come up on stage. I'll never forget that. But doing that opened up a doorway that led to becoming even better at what I do, and to be able to be more of a whole integrated coach and teacher. And so I'm grateful to the two of you for that opportunity. It was a really important process. So thank you.
One of the things that I found, Stephen, and I've worked with a lot of people in your position where you're like transitioning, or maybe like you were supporting the talent, but not really understanding you had your own talent, but at the time you're supporting somebody else. And we do that in corporate, right? We support the talent, the company. And for me, every time I sit down to write a book, I find that is my opportunity to take all these things in my head, or maybe dig deeper into certain areas, of what I teach or what I do, and learn more, because, you're synthesizing it all. But a way to sort of kind of identify what your methodology, or what that secret sauce is that you do, that you can turn into a process to create a transformation for somebody else, right? So like when you communicate with people, if I sit down one-on-one with you, and we're having a conversation, it's very natural for you to talk about these things, just like you did right now, what you shared. But to share it in a book where you're not physically there, and to walk people through like solving a challenge or a problem in a way that only you can, when you lay it out in a book, you really have to sort of, you have to lay it out into some sort of formula almost, right? A journey. And so for me, writing a book has always helped, because then every other way I communicate, whether it's through social media, speaking, or whatever, then you have that sort of blueprint, And so that's one thing I've seen with you when you were going through the book writing process, is you were really like, I've got all these ideas, I've got all these things, is like, how do I kind of put this together in a way that works and in the direction I'm going, not only just with yourself, but what you were doing with Rachel as well. So it's been really fun to watch.
Thank you, Patricia. It's a really important point you make. I knew a lot about what I'm talking about, the inner workings of me, of my high sensitivity, before I wrote the book with you. But we have to own this part. We have to claim it and own it. Yep. And to do that, I found that it was much easier to articulate that in the form of writing it down and speaking about it on our regular calls, and really understanding the nuances of what that meant and what it was that I was owning, and getting comfortable with it. It's just really hard to do all that. There's an inner process that needs to shift.
Yep.
And it's hard to do that on our own. It's hard to do that with your own internal thinking, because we have such a critical view of ourselves sometimes, that we have to get reality checks to see what's really true and what's not. And putting it in writing and talking about it with others was the way that helped me really understand that part of myself, and how I could own that.
Well, and also so I felt like with, you said you're part of a subset, 20%. And it's kind of one of those things, like when I was growing up, they call you shy. They didn't have all these different terms, right? And so you were just one or the other. And then once you were sort of boxed in, it was kind of like, okay, she does not going to want to do that, or that's not something I do, or whatever, because it was so. And so for topics like that, there's an education that has to happen too, right? When you're sharing your story, whether you're on stage or in a book, you have to sort of like backtrack way back from where you currently are to educate your reader, so that then they can walk alongside you and really learn. And so that can be a complicated process as well, because we're so far down in our journey and we don't realize we got to go back and kind of pull everyone back up with us. And so you did a really great job with that. And also opening up a conversation that some men don't want to have. And, you know, create a safe space for people to be like, you know, I kind of was feeling like I wasn't sure what was happening, or, you know, this is someplace where I can communicate this now. And so that's also so valuable, is that vulnerability that came with it as well.
Thank you, Patricia. And thank you for just naming the challenge that many men have with owning their feelings and allowing themselves to experience it. And I, even being sensitive and having deeper feelings, had the same challenge because I was programmed and stereotyped into believing I needed to be a certain way. And so that was another thing that made it hard to articulate it and put it down and to share it. And that's why the practice of going through what you offered gave me a chance to see that it's okay to do it. It's safe. It's not only safe, but it's helping people. And I had many men approaching me and letting me know that they appreciated that I can voice something that they found hard to voice and even understand how to deal with in their own lives. And so over time, I can see that there's a lot of value in what I bring with this part of me that I found hard to accept for many years. And that's what helps me push through when it gets difficult, to allow myself to be seen, to be vulnerable. I don't think I could have done this even today without that experience initially, and the work that I'm doing, and Healthy Love as a program, which I teach and co-lead with Rachel Levy, but it's also something for me in my practice. And so it all works together that way. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Stephen, you represent, I mean, you really represent men and women and the collective and possibility, and that you can reinvent yourself, and you can be an introvert, because we hear that term a lot, and sensitive and all the things. And thank you for all the amazing work that you do in the world. So
You're welcome. And thank you both. And I love what you're doing. And I'm excited to keep doing more with both of you. So thank you for what you do.
you're welcome. So great. Oh gosh. And you know what's so great? Like, everybody brings their unique perspective and their unique gifts with them, you know, wherever they go. And to be able to voice it, to be able to use your voice, to be able to speak your message, like sharing your background, Stephen, and what you go through and what the process has been like for you. It helps other people when they learn your story. And with that being said, Lenore, Nolan, Ryan.
You know, you can see how connected everyone in this room is. That's what's so amazing once you start sharing your story and speaking with each other. And I mean, every single person in this room, I would kill to like spend a weekend with, like, you know, and so that's how stories, you know, connect and sharing that vulnerability. So
Yeah, it's so true. Like, really getting to feel and know somebody. Well, Lenore, look at you, just always fabulous, and so interesting to be on this journey with you for a very long time, a lot of
It's been a
years.
long time.
I guess
A lot
we're
of years.
15 years or something, and to see where you're at and all the amazing things that you do, and to be able to see it like behind the scenes. And not only are you very visible here in South Florida, and you know, even around the world, as a celebrity chef, and then a best-selling author, and now you're also working on your own book, and you have a cooking school, and you travel the world. You were just on a yacht and doing all these things. So you're like, you know, you do so many amazing things, very inspiring. And I know that you are going to share in your book that's going to launch next year or at the end of this year, more of how that all happened, taking you back, because we want to learn the story, like how you became Lenore from the time you were a young girl.
Little girl.
But why is it that you do what you do? Like, all these things, what inspires you to go full force in your 70s, and you're very outright speaking about that, and that it's never too late because you're doing these things now in this decade, which is really encouraging for people that, you know, this is like the third act. So what inspires you so much?
Because I love it. It's love. Love is the main ingredient, which happens to be the name of my book, but really it's love. I love what I do. I found what I love. I found my pleasure, which creates your passion, which defines your purpose from a very young age. And I'm just writing. Well, first of all, I want to tell you how honored I am to be here in this collaborative, in this community, on this call right now, because I'm listening and I've been taking some notes at everything everybody is saying, because I want to be able to go back to that and bring it into my life, bring it into my recipe. And food has always been my language. Food is my ministry. And it's how I, you know, when you said that I'm a best-selling author, and I must say that my first chapter was in your book, how many years ago? Right?
14 years ago.
14 years ago. I think I just got something on Facebook. 14 years ago, my very first chapter. And I loved food and I loved writing, but I didn't really think about being an author. But I was so honored to be in a chapter in that book of yours. And then I started doing a little bit more writing, and I was doing a column for the local newspaper. And then I went to Lifestyle Magazine and Ask the Expert column. And still, you know, writing, I love writing because I love the words. I think I love writing. It's second to loving food. But I really, in then deciding to write a book, to backtrack on that, I was Googling about writing. And the Jack Canfield Harrison group got in touch with me. I don't know how. That's serendipity and synchronicity when it all comes together. And you love something so much that it just brings everything in that you want, but you don't know really that you want it. And I did a 3-day seminar with 10 people and Jack Canfield. Now, this was a couple of years ago, and he liked my writing. And so that inspired me to be a co-author with Jack on a book that came out last year called The Keys to Authenticity: Unlocking the Code to a Fulfilling Business and Life. So I wrote my 2,500 words, and it was at that moment that I really understood why I was doing what I was doing. Because life and recipes are exactly the same. Food is the same as life, right? Living is the same as a recipe. It's a recipe for life. And what is my recipe for life? Now, coming out with that book, right? Co-author, I'm in award-winning, you know, company, okay? That gave me a platform that I could then share my expertise in unlocking that code with team building events, with speaking, with podcasts, with actually giving me the inspiration and the courage, along with Wendy and Patricia, thank you very much, to write my own book. So the parallel of living and cooking and the life and recipe is the same. It's like, I did an event with Julia Child. I'm going to just make this really short, but it changed my life. I did an event with Julia, and she came to my restaurant in San Francisco, and I was cooking desserts that were going to be at her table for a book signing. She wanted to see where I was working. So she came to my restaurant. She came in the kitchen. I'd shown her around, left the tarte, it was tarte tatin, left the tarte tatin too long, sitting in the pan. So when you turn it out, you know, it's supposed to come right out. Ta-da! I've made them 100 times. Ta-da! Tap, 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 didn't come out. Tap, 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 didn't come out. She says to me, "Oh, Lenore," just like that. "Oh, Lenore, there are no mistakes in the kitchen." I got, there are no mistakes in life. And that is what that showed me. So we chiseled out the tarte tatin. She made a custard. We got some pretty wine glasses. We made a tarte tatin parfait. And that's what we set right beside her book sign. So all of these things along my life, you know, these kind of back files. And then when I was writing, and the key to authenticity, my chapter is called Peanut Butter and Jelly, of course, because what goes so well together but peanut butter and jelly? We all love it. And now my book, Love is the Main Ingredient, all of these things along my life, now I'm creating a recipe. It's my recipe, and you have your recipe, and you have your recipe. And you better be sure that there are no mistakes. So that zesty lemon that really isn't so zesty is same as that person that was supposed to do something. Well, that something was supposed to be done that way. There are no mistakes. And like you said, not being able to go the meta and the YouTube and all of that. You just go with it. And as my mama always said, if it doesn't turn out right, you make a reservation. So that is what has gotten me to where I am today. And it's all about food. And each and every one of you cook. So when you're cooking, let that cooking be, it's your meditation. It's your life's meditation. Think about it that way. And it's really going to come out so much more delicious. Such is life.
You know, Lenore, so we get on a call with Lenore every Monday to work on her book, and we just laugh, and you walk away like so inspired and empowered every single time. And so in our academy this week, we were talking about writing your book, right? And one of the things we talked about was the tone. You want the tone in your book to match your personality, so that if someone wants to do something else with you or follow you online or whatever, they know what to expect because they read your chapter and you're consistent. And Lenore's book is just as fun and inspiring and magical and whatever as her personality is here. And that's what makes like a really good like brand and speaker and everything, is if you go one place and you just always know what to expect. Like, she's very secure in her identity. And that's what's been like so fun working with you, because you take what you're doing very seriously, but you're not serious about the outcome, right? You just approach it like, this is what I'm going to do. It's either going to work or it's not, but I'm just going to keep moving forward, because I know that, like Wendy was saying earlier, is just take action, right? And it's going to take you where you were supposed to end up anyway. So it's just a pure joy working with you, Lenore.
It's so good. And we were saying like, oh my goodness, like we're already planning Lenore's book launch. Like you can already imagine all of you are going to be invited to this amazing book launch. But yeah, you're always the same. Like you show up the same. You're a powerful, dynamic speaker, communicator, leader, and human being. Always rolling up your sleeves, willing to help, support for nonprofits, all the work that you do. It's truly an honor to work with you on this book. So we're like over the moon, right? Like over the moon. And you're crushing it. You're crushing it. And yeah, we're very excited for that. And then how many doors it's going to open, because we're already talking about New York, the Times Square launch. We're already talking about all these things that are going to be launched. So stay tuned, because we're like, like all those things. And also too, for our co-author books, right? So our co-author books doing the same thing, and then working with you and other authors launching their book. It is something that nobody can ever take away from you, right? It's timeless, it's limitless, it's boundless, it's ageless, it's all those things that carry with you forever. So such an honor, Lenore. Love having you here on Facebook. everyone that you're hearing today, their contact information, their social handles are in the comments section below. So you're looking for a podcast guest, you're looking to book somebody on your summit, virtual, live, you've got the dream team right here. So thank you so much, Lenore.
Thank you. My pleasure. And I come with food.
And she does come with food. If you were in South Florida, you would you definitely have to visit her cooking school and bring her on board for anything that has to do with food, which is like every day. It's what we have to do. So thank you so very much. And now we have the great honor even though she is coming to us live from Hawaii. Before she was in Hawaii, she was in Paris. She was in other places in Europe as well, because that's who she is. We have Malvina Messler in the house, who is a quantum success coach that helps men and women take that quantum leap of success in their life, and the Paris retreat guru, and just came back. So we all have FOMO of just watching her in the gowns and the Eiffel Tower and the photo shoots and all the food and all the things. And lo and behold, we have you with us here today. So welcome, Malvina.
Thank you, Wendy. It's so nice to be here. It was 6 a.m. here in Hawaii when we started this call, but I wouldn't miss it because you always bring such a powerful community together. That is one of your superpowers, and I just love being a part of everything you create. So whether I'm in France, in Paris, or in Hawaii, I'll always make the time.
Amazing. Amazing. So because you wear all those different hats, tell us like what your favorite thing is about what you do.
You know, I think that my favorite thing is living life in alignment. You know, when I used to have a job and I had a great career, I was a business coach, I was a VP of business development for a couple technology companies, and you know, I was very grateful for what I had, but my life wasn't really mine, truly. And it wasn't until I actually took myself on a solo trip to Paris, where I reignited my spark, really got to know myself, who I really was. And it was this self-love trip, truly. And when I returned, I quit my six-figure job. I left behind all the accolades. And why? Not only to live a life of impact and purpose and fulfillment, but also to live a life on my own terms, aligned life. And so I call it really becoming a CEO of your life. And that's why when you gave me an opportunity to be one of the co-authors in the Becoming You book, I said yes, because that also felt very much in alignment. Because one of the things I do is I take especially women through the journey of unbecoming first, unbecoming all that we're not, that we were told we are and we're supposed to be, shedding all those layers of false identities, so we can actually come back to ourselves and remember who we are. And so when you said there's this book, Becoming You, you can share your journey, I said, oh my gosh, universe heard me. This is so aligned. And I was so excited to be a part of it. And of course, when I take women to Paris, I would lie if I didn't say that is one of my favorite things, you know, working privately with women and really bringing them back to themselves is very rewarding. And at the same time, there is something special when you take a group of women and there's this sisterhood that is happening, this sacred space, and we all get to stretch our comfort zone in another country. And of course, Paris showers us with love. And we get to not only fall in love with Paris, but also with ourselves. So I love witnessing that journey and walking alongside incredible women that come with me and see them, like you said, at the end of this journey of self-discovery and self-worth as well, shine in front of the Eiffel Tower in a glam photo shoot where they go from hiding to really being seen. Because that translates into the work they do after they come back home, right? Every one of us was talking about that, how many of you mentioned not knowing your own gifts and talents and then suddenly unleashing that to the world. And just, I love hearing how boldly you are stepping into your purpose, you know, Debbie and Stephen, and really sharing that with the world. And that's possible for all of us. So I think that's really the fuel for me every day.
Yeah, I've loved, and all of us have loved watching you with, well, first off, your family. Like you're not even from the United States. So let's just talk about like your heritage, like coming from Poland, and to think about like relocating for most of us that have, whether we're first or second or third generation, right? And then come into a new country and then to build. So it's a lot of change, and with change usually makes us uncomfortable, right? Most people, they don't really like change, so they avoid it. They think they want to do the thing, but they keep brushing it under the rug. What would you say to someone who is really risk adverse and be more conservative? And can you share a little bit about like your chapter in Becoming You? Because I think that is the point where people can see you and say, oh, you've got all this going on. Look at you. Like, you know, you're traveling to Paris and this and that. But you share a story where you were going through fear and you were going through a difficult time. So can you share a little bit about your chapter and your
Sure.
story?
Yes. And thank you, because, you know, becoming a published author was really big deal for me. As you mentioned, I'm originally from Poland, so therefore my accent, I bring it everywhere I go. And that being said, I'm not a native speaker in English. It's my second language. So for me, becoming a public speaker was certainly a big accomplishment. And then having become a best-selling author, I didn't really think this was possible, writing a book in English. So that was a tremendous personal success. And in terms of my journey, you know, when I came to America by myself, I was in my early 20s. I actually was selling my shoes and clothes at the local market in Poland so I could buy a plane ticket to come to the US. And that's kind of how I made it here. So it was definitely a long journey from being a waitress in America to becoming a co-founder of a national franchise brand and eventually my own boss. And the journey that I write about in Becoming You is actually not even that, because there was a lot of change I had to navigate by moving here. And that was certainly challenging, especially on my nervous system and being in a new country. However, one chapter of my life was more challenging than others. And that was when I attracted a pretty toxic relationship, and I found myself in an abusive marriage. So for many years, that really shaped the conditional programming that I believed about myself, the lies I believed and limitation I believed about myself, living in that dysfunction. And it took some time for me to recover from it. And I think that when I see people who are dealing with imposter syndrome, it makes me think, and there's, you know, so many accomplished, talented people that still suffer from it. It resonates with me because I noticed that there's a difference between self-confidence and self-worth. You see, I was very confident in my career and no one knew what was inside. And from the outside, I was just like here right now. I was very charismatic, outspoken. I had it together. But on the inside, there was no sense of self-worth, of my own value. I didn't feel deserving because of my past. Because how could I let someone mistreat me like this? And the wounds of the past were so deep. So then I didn't attract the best relationships even after I got divorced. I didn't attract the best opportunities in life. And I realized that, you know, we don't get in life what we want, we get what we are worthy of, what we feel worthy of. And so I really took it upon myself to study the neuroscience of change, because as you said, so many of us will deal with change. It's inevitable, right? Either we will deal with it consciously by choice, like we will step into quitting corporate like Debbie and starting her own business, or like Stephen, you know, going from behind the scenes to being in the spotlight. And it is a choice, and we get to navigate that change. Or sometimes it's, you know, surprise change. We lose our job, something dramatic happens in our life or health. And so I learned that there is a lot to know about calibrating our nervous system, working with our mindset, and really understanding how that process of change works. And we can absolutely do it. It's not that only certain people are destined to navigate change better than others. With the right knowledge and right skills, we all get to thrive through change.
What's so incredible, Malvina, is that because of how you positioned your chapter by sharing your story and the self-confidence versus self-worth, you were able to create that red thread to your programs. You established your credibility as understanding your audience, right? Of these women that you take and sort of bring up, help them bring out and increase their self-worth. And so that is really that great connection point of being vulnerable in your chapter. And so it's been absolutely a pleasure working with you and watching how all of this has evolved. And also, like Wendy said, you coming from another country and everything. And so, you know, we're so excited to keep, you know, sharing and your story and working with you on the next book as well.
And the next book, and we can't, so the journey just continues. It's just really great. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
Malvina.
I
thank
can't
you.
wait to
More
be in the-
stages. Yeah, keep growing and helping more people.
And
Amazing.
if I may, to add something to what Patricia said, you know, I wanted to also share what I did with how I leveraged the book, because not only I have a beautiful paper copy that I think you were holding a moment ago, Patricia, Becoming You, which I use often as a gift for my prospective clients when I speak, but I also turned my chapter into a digital lead magnet, and it is now a part of my a customer journey and a funnel that I incorporated into my sales process. So it has been not only great for credibility, authority, also as a very much aligned leave behind, an introduction to potential clients, but also as a powerful lead generation system. So thank you, ladies. I couldn't have done it without you.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome. And we have Marcia in the house. And Marcia, you know, I always share this story, is that when we met, it was your Clubhouse profile. Like sometimes it's the written word, it's what you read before you actually even, or a combination when you meet the person and then what you read about them. And your profile was written that you were a lawyer and a light worker. And to me, like when you came in one of the rooms, like that's how we all know, the three of us here over from Clubhouse. And truly, as a Harvard trained attorney, as a law professor, as a speaker, an AI expert, and you speak on stages with thousands of people all around the world, like you spoke in Lisbon to, I don't know, thousands of people, Microsoft, all these things that you're doing. It was very humbling to have you be part of book number 1 and book number 2, called To Speak, Lead, Impact, and Becoming You. And you've got both your books with you right there. And then to see all the things that you're doing. You just got back from Nepal. I mean, really the highest, deepest respect. You lead retreats. You've been leading retreats for lawyers. Like you're making a real impact in a niche market of lawyers and those in the legal system and all the people that you touch. So it's a great honor to have you here, Marcia.
Well, thanks for having me here. And thanks to both of you. I'm a two-time best-selling author, which, and I also have a lot in common with Malvina. I also am a survivor of domestic violence and like to work with people to kind of help them realize that they're not alone. If I'm a lawyer, like you said, a professor, I create courses, I'm a podcaster, and you were just on both of you have been on my podcast, Malvina, and retreat hosts and workshop facilitator. When I think of all of those, the name of my company is Illuminating Wisdom. It's really just to bring light. And that's also where the light worker part comes in, right? Because light worker is really to bring light to the darkness. So whether it's being a lawyer or a professor and, clarifying and bringing some light to super complex topics. I also work with a lot of entrepreneurs because I also am an entrepreneur. So lawyers, high achievers, and high stress roles and entrepreneurs all have the same kinds of things in common, right? They're constantly thinking about what the next thing they need to do is, which can lead to all kinds of issues. When I think about why I do, why am I an executive coach for lawyers and entrepreneurs and high achievers, right? Because I've been in that role and I know what it's like, and I do what I do for all of these things, especially as it relates to really helping with mental health and mental well-being, is because I was hospitalized 6 times in 6 years with what doctors thought were heart attacks or strokes. And so if there's anybody listening who's in the medical field, I could tell you all about troponin levels and that kind of stuff, because I was in the hospital so many times that I knew the terminology that whenever I go to a doctor, people ask me if I'm in the medical field. And I don't tell them I'm a lawyer either, because that, by the way, makes it worse. They want to overcharge you, overtest you, because they're afraid they're going to get sued. But my identity for a long time was tied to all the things that were causing what I thought was causing me stress, as opposed to not knowing how to harness the powers of stress, and not knowing what was leading to the physical manifestation. So my first book chapter in the Call to Speak, Lead, and Impact is actually called, I wrote a eulogy for the man who tried to kill me, right? Which I actually did. And the whole purpose of that chapter was really about forgiveness, because I didn't realize how forgiveness was affecting my mental health and my physical well-being, where, it's part of my life purpose that I don't want anyone else to almost have to die so they can learn how they should live, right? And then the second book, which I was able to be part of as well, Becoming You, it also talks about light, right? It's, I should actually look at the title, but I think it's From Lawyer to Lightworker, coming out of the spiritual closet, right? And it's because there is, especially if you're in a profession like mine, lawyer, or you've got to always have everything together and always, present a certain kind of image, which I think, of course, many other professions have as well. It's very rare that you come out and say, this is the real me. I also really into chakras and Akashic records and Reiki and all kinds of chronic healing, all kinds of things that people might say that doesn't go with what a lawyer should be. And so often, and the whole book about Becoming You is really to show that, like Malvina said, what's looked on the outside is not always what's really there. And as you have said, Wendy, because you've been on my podcast a couple of days ago, that episode will come out soon. If you've got a story, you have to share it. You have an obligation to share it. And I think everybody has a story. It's important for lawyers to see me talking about spirituality and not being what you need to be. And you can wear fuchsia and it's okay. Nobody's going to think you're not a lawyer. It's important for me to talk to law students about the importance of mental health and well-being, because we have among the highest suicide and depression and anxiety rates in the profession. And it's important for me to do a podcast where I have people like you on, because people are like, why would you do a podcast? You have so much to do. Because I have a lot to say, but also I know a lot of people. I know too many amazing people not to share their stories with the world. So, for me, being able to be in the book was able to share my story, shed light on myself, put the spotlight on me. And I usually put the spotlight on everybody else. And so it was a real honor and pleasure to be part of it. And, for those people who are listening, who are like, I don't have time to write a book, Wendy and Patricia make it super easy. And, I think of my father, who is now in his mid-80s with dementia, who was writing a book the entire time I can remember. So like 50 years, he's been writing a book and writing screenplays. And he's such a perfectionist. that he never ever published it. I mean, he sent it off to people, he sent the film off to Hollywood, but he never was satisfied that it was perfect. And now in his dementia, it will never be published, neither the script or the book. And sometimes you got to do it messy and clean things up, right? Sometimes you just got to get it out.
It's so common. And, one of the many things I love about you, because I'm like a super fan, is Marcia, you're like the queen of curiosity, And so like, I remember like the first time you told me what the name of your chapter was going to be for the first book is that you wrote the eulogy for the man that tried to kill me. Like, it was like goosebumps. Like you always keep me on the edge of my seat. And then when you said you were doing the second book, I'm like, she's not gonna be able to top that. How in the world is she gonna top that? Like your talk was amazing. Your chapter was amazing, everything. And then you came out and topped it. But I think also just, you are always curious. It's no accident that you're an attorney and you're into this and you're traveling and you have this group and you have a podcast. You're a very curious person. And if there's something that you see that you could either help somebody else with, or that you may be able to provide an answer for, or that you could gain clarity for yourself or others, you go find the information and then you present it in a way that is very digestible. But like through you've made me like very like wanting to travel in a different way. I mean, I had my whole family involved in your Nepal experience. Literally, like we were voting who would have come down.
Apparently nobody's going, because every time I'm still like, why would you go through that suffering?
So nobody was getting on that horse in my family.
Super briefly, I went to Nepal to hike for 3 weeks. No, to hike for 9 days. I was there for 3 weeks. Actually went with my ex-husband, who featured in the first book chapter. That's part of that forgiveness. So it shows that I can be zen like that. And wasn't worried he was going to throw me off a mountain. Right. And I sprained my ankle 4 days in and had to use a horse and a helicopter, plus live with villagers and do all kinds of stuff to take it off this mountain. And I did it, by the way, because I thought climbing the mountain was going to be hard. I live in Florida. There's no mountain. There's barely a hill. And I never hiked. And my orthopedist said, don't climb more than a flight of stairs. So I did it because it was hard. And I did it because if I can do that, somebody else was going to say, I can do that too. I can start to train to do this. I can learn to swim. Actually getting injured and dealing with all of that adversity was a bigger lesson. And it has had a bigger impact on people on social media than if I had made it to base camp with the flags and the picture like everybody else. And that's another reason, why sharing it on LinkedIn and on Instagram, sharing the story is important. It kind of goes back to why a book. In a book, you're going to have a much wider reach. And then the good thing about these anthologies is that, this one I think had 15, 14 other audiences will come to me because all the people are going to buy the book for their friend's chapter, right? But then they might read other things. So I also think being in an anthology is a great way to get another audience. And like Malvina, I do send my a copy of the book to my coaching clients, and it helps them see me in a totally different way, because when you're a coach, it's not about you, right? You of course have the pleasantries and you might give in some personal anecdotes to help the person, but it's really all about them. So many of my coaching clients, like, I had no idea that you went through all of this. And it gives me more credibility in their eyes as well.
Yeah. Well, and that's really how we create transformation in other people, is creating a connection point somewhere. We have to. It's not about the real polished social media posts with the perfect captions and the perfect lighting and hair, and because that's a disconnect. You're building a wall. And so by being curious, but then sharing everything you discover along the way, the good, the bad, what happens, and personalizing it, it does allow you to build that connection before you even get on your first call with them. You know, that's so important. And so that's what I really appreciate about how you approach your public image, is that it's not just one part of you. It's, it's kind of all the different layers of it. And then it allows somebody to take those journeys with you.
It's when we know someone, your vulnerabilities, you always put your vulnerabilities out there. And that those are not things that we put on a billboard. But those are things that in sharing a chapter and sharing a gift of a book or something like that, you give them some insight into your inner world. And I would say that it was even like partnering with Patricia, knowing that had published books and all these things, but knowing her human story, I think that we connect to the human story because you have a lot of choices in life. You have a lot of choices in lawyers, or somebody's going to take you on a retreat or hire, for a cooking or like, but the personality is the thing we gravitate to. And, this is the time right now, for those that are listening, that they want to get out there and they want to leave a corporate career, or they're an entrepreneur and they're holding back. I say most people hold back, right? It's really scary. I mean, I'm 2 days trying to fit. I mean, I was so determined to do this summit, as you guys know, right? But there are going to be so many hurdles. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it. And that's what you represent in your trip and what you share, and everybody here is sharing, right? So it's like, it's a hurdle. I can make it. You just have to keep saying, I'll figure it out. It may not look like, it may not be all polished and pretty, but I'm going to represent realism, like what it's like, and peel back the curtain. So, yeah, it's really always such an honor. And then your expertise, might I say, which I think is like another like diamond in the rough that you just like throw out there, AI like inside out, and you were able to dissect it. We have you speak we're like, Marcia, can you speak about that? Because you were able to take complex ideas and concepts and really be able to bring them down, which like to the basic level, they say like third grade, and to bring it down to a level where people say, okay, I can do AI. I can do these things. So people that work with you in either capacity, whether it's hiring you as an attorney or to attend one of your events or as a coach, they get all these amazing aspects of you. So thank you so
Thank you.
much, Marcia.
And I'll just say one last thing. Talked about being vulnerable. It is really liberating when you already put your stuff out there, right? Because then you're not worried what anybody's going to think of you. For me, I've been a lawyer for 32 years, so I can talk on LinkedIn about doing ayahuasca. I'm not worried about it because, right, I've proved my credibility. But as you get older, and once you publish a book or you put yourself out there on social media, you're not so worried that people are going to say, I can't believe she said that. More often, people are like, I wish I was brave enough to say that. I wish I was brave enough to be in a book. And Debbie talked about that know, like, and trust factor. There are a million coaches, a million lawyers, a million, social media experts, but people feel like they have to get to know you. And I think especially, and I'll close with this, in the age of AI, where everything is looking much more generic because people are using ChatGPT or other stuff for everything, when you can show your true self and your true soul, people are more likely to gravitate toward that than they are to the kind of cookie cutter mold of what a lawyer or a coach or a speaker or a business executive is supposed to look like. So I'll just stop there.
Yeah, agree. Okay, our friend, all of you, maybe we'll all come back in the speaker view here as we're getting ready to sign off. Everybody's link to their social media platforms and website is in the comments section. Such an honor to be with all of you speakers and coaches. We're going to be doing this monthly, so get involved, get to know one another. It's really an amazing community.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very honored that we have so many amazing people that trust us to help them share their story. And so we're so excited to keep spotlighting the people in this room, and then also all of the other authors and different people that we're working with as well.
And our new books. We have 2 new books coming out at the same time. We're doing one at a time. So we have Unleashed Entrepreneur and we have Biohack Entrepreneur. And there is a question around like biohacking, and what that is like, it can be anything that you do that energizes you for your health, for your creativity, for your productivity, all those things, and peeling back that one little thing that you do that makes a difference for you can make a difference for somebody else too.
Yeah, it can be medical, it can be spiritual, it can be psychological, it can be self-care. A lot of us have morning routines, but then we also have all the practitioners as well, functional medicine doctors or people that have infrared studios, but anything we're doing to optimize how we feel physically, mentally, and spiritually is what we're going to be sharing in that book, because I think we all want to know, like, what are those things? You know, we're all out there trying different things. And what are these? It's kind of hard to sift through, like, what are some of these modalities, whether they're things that are being out in nature, they're free, we can do them all whenever we want, or some of these other things that we are seeing, you know, advertised and that people are doing as well. So,
And our
that's
next Unleash Your
exciting.
Superpower. So, and our regular events that we have the dates, so mark your calendar, April 26th, 2025, April 26th. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Love you.
Love you all.